A warm welcome, dear children, once again back to the class of biology. We've had 2 classes already where we talked about the living organisms. In the first class, we had discussed about the characteristics of living organisms and how they're different from the non-living organisms. And we'll just do a quick recap of what we did in the previous class. So in the last class, we talked about biodiversity, in which we discussed that the meaning of the word biodiversity, which means a variety of living organisms. And when we use this term biodiversity, we talk about the number of types of species present in a particular geographical area. So that is biodiversity. We discussed this with an example. I showed you 2 geographical areas by labeling them as A and B. And what we discussed over there, what we saw was that in the geographical area which has 3 species, the biodiversity we said is more as compared to the area A which had only 2 species, right? After that, we talked about the nomenclature, and we said it's a big word, but nomenclature was simply a naming of a living organism. And we also discussed that this term nomenclature was put forward by Carolus Linnaeus. And then under nomenclature, we talked about binomial nomenclature, right? What is binomial nomenclature? A scientific name having 2 components, right? So the first component is the genus, it represents the genus, and the second component represents the species or the specific epithet, right? Then again, this was put forward by Carolus Linnaeus. Then we discussed about the rules of nomenclature, in which we discussed the first rule, that the scientific names are Latin or it is written in italics. Then we discussed that there are 2 components of a scientific name. The first one is the genus, the second one is the species. The third rule is that the name of the genus, the first alphabet of the genus is written with a capital letter, and the first alphabet of the species is written with a small letter. Fourth point was that if the scientific name is handwritten, then it has to be underlined separately, right? And then we also discussed that every species has a scientific name as well as a common name. Then we discussed about classification, simply grouping of organisms according to their similarities, right? And we discussed about natural, artificial and phylogenetic classification. In natural classification, the characteristics of the internal as well as the external characteristic of the organism is taken into consideration. In artificial classification, only the external characteristics are taken into consideration. And in phylogenetic classification, the evolutionary relationship of the living organisms is taken into consideration. So based on these things, the organisms are classified, right? So now we come to the next topic that we have to start with today, right? So we all know what is classification. We've discussed about that, and then we learned that there are around 1.7 to 1.8 million species present on Earth, right? 1.7 to 1.8 million species present on Earth. Variety, that means, right? Huge, it's a huge number actually, right? And so to study about these species is slightly difficult. You know, we need to have a methodical way to study these species, right? So for that, what has happened is that there is a branch which is known as taxonomy, right? So today, basically, we will be studying about taxonomy, right? So under taxonomy, we will study how methodical they've made the classification and how easy it becomes to study the characteristic features of living organisms, whether plants or animals, right? So this taxonomy, this word taxonomy has been derived from Greek language, right? So it is made up of 2 Greek words. The first is taxis, right? And the second is, the first is taxis, again here, the Greek word, right? And the second word is nomia, right? taxus and nomia. So the word taxus means arrangement and nomia is method, right? So method of arrangement. Taxus is arrangement and nomia is the method. So what is actually taxonomy? It is a method of arranging the living organisms based on their similarities, right? Characteristics which are similar, and grouping them into a particular category, right? So whenever we talk about taxonomy, we see that there are various categories, and these categories, they are ranked, right? So there is an order, a taxonomic hierarchy that is made, right? So these groups are ranked, they are arranged according to their similarities and dissimilarities, and we will see how there are many living organisms which have 100% similarities, and how the living organism, the similarities between the living organism, it goes on decreasing when we will study the taxonomical hierarchy, right? So what we are going to do now is taxonomy. It is the arrangement or organization of living organisms based on their similarities, right? So they are categorized into a particular category or a particular group, and then a taxonomic rank is formed, and this creates the taxonomic hierarchy, right? Apart from this, we will also come across another term which is known as systematics. Another term which is known as systematics. Right, so we discussed that taxonomy is naming, grouping of organisms based on their similarities into a particular group or a particular category, or we will say a particular rank, right? So that is what is a taxonomic hierarchy. Now when we use the word systematics, systematics tells us about the evolutionary relationship that the living organisms on earth have. What evolutionary relationship they have. So the difference between taxonomy and systematics is that taxonomy is simply the classification and naming of organisms, and systematics determines the evolutionary relationship among the living organisms. So these are the two terms that you will come across when you will read the lesson, right? So that's about taxonomy. And now we'll see that Carolus Linnaeus, right, a scientist that we've been talking about since the beginning of the first lesson, right? Carolus Linnaeus had written a book named as Systema Naturae, right? So he had written a book named Systema Naturae. Right, now this book contains the nomenclature, and later on there was another book known as New Systematics, which was put forward by Julius Huxley, and there are 22 authors to this particular book also, right? So let's see what is actually the category that we are talking about, or the group that we are talking about, or the taxonomic rank that we are talking about, right? So this is nothing new. In class 9 itself, you've studied a little bit about it, and when we do this, it will be very clear to you. So we will talk about the taxonomic rank or the taxonomic hierarchy. Very simply, the order of the taxonomic hierarchy can be remembered by just memorizing one sentence that I'll tell you, right? It's a very simple sentence that if you memorize that sentence, the order of the taxonomic hierarchy would be, it would be easy for you to remember the order of the taxonomic hierarchy. So just keep pot clean or family gets sick. Keep pot clean or family gets sick. Now see, keep pot clean family gets sick. Just remember the sentence, right? So let's take up the first alphabet of each. Keep is K, ought is P, clean is C, or is O, family is F, gets is G, and sick is S. Now let's see, what does this mean? Kingdom, phylum, C is class, O is order, F is family, G is genus, the two terms that we've been talking about since the last class, and S is species. Right, so this is the order of the taxonomic hierarchy, right? And we start with the basic unit of the taxonomic hierarchy, which starts from bottom, right? So species is the first basic unit that we will talk about. So right, whenever we talk about a taxonomic hierarchy, now these are the taxon, right? One particular group or one category is known as taxon, and the plural term of taxon is taxa. So I just write it here. Taxon is the singular term and taxa is the plural term, right? So this is the taxonomic hierarchy, and we also call it the obligate categories. In medicals, a question is asked, how many obligate categories are found in taxonomy or taxonomic hierarchy? So if you look at it, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So there are 7 obligate categories in the taxonomic hierarchy, or there are 7 taxa, or there are 7 groups, or simply there are 7 categories. Right? So I hope this is clear to you. The taxonomic hierarchy, there are 7 obligate categories or groups or taxon. Right? And when we talk about the characteristics of living organisms based on this, see what happens is, depending upon the characteristic, a group of organism is placed in a particular category or in a particular taxon. Right? So they are grouped under species, genus, family, order, class, phylum and kingdom. And what do we see over here is that the maximum fundamental characteristics of features which are same are found in the species. And as we move from bottom up to the kingdom, we find that the number of similarities amongst the organisms, it decreases, right? So it is maximum in the species and it decreases as it moves up to the kingdom, right? So these are the 7 obligate categories which are found in the taxonomical hierarchy. So what is actually taxonomical hierarchy? It is a stepwise arrangement of groups, right? So what is it? The stepwise arrangement of group is known as the taxonomical hierarchy, right? So now we will start with the basic unit of the taxonomical hierarchy, that is the species. So we'll understand in the exams also, in your exams, you can be asked to define the taxonomical hierarchy, the 7 obligate categories. What are they? Define species, define phylum, right? So such questions will be asked in the exams, and even in the medicals, questions related to this is asked, right? So for that, you need to be very, very sure. You need to understand what does each taxonomical category represent, or what are the characteristic features of each taxonomical hierarchy, right? So we will start with the first one, that is the species, and of course here, this particular sentence, just mug it up nicely, right? You should not forget this sentence. Keep pot clean or family gets sick. I think it's very, very simple, right? Keep pot clean or family gets sick. So we start with the first taxonomical category or a taxon, that is species. Species. You are aware that every scientific name has two components. The first component is the genus and the second component is the species. So I'll just give you, I'll write 3 examples, right? Panthera leo, Panthera pardus, Panthera tigris. Right? So Panthera leo is lion, Panthera pardus is leopard, and Panthera tigris is tiger. Right? Now just imagine if I do not write the species, right? If I do not write the species, then what do you get to read on the board? That in all the 3 cases it is just Panthera. So by this Panthera, will you be able to recognize which animal am I talking about? I'm sure not, right? So name of the species is a must to recognize what animal am I talking about, right? So without the name of the species, this is useless. We won't know which animal are we talking about, right? So what do we get to see over here is that there is a special characteristic to all these organisms. What do we see is all 3 of them are different from each other, right? One is the lion, the other is the leopard, and the third one is a tiger. 3 different species, 3 different organisms, right? All 3 are not the same. If you look at the lion, if you look at the leopard, and if you look at the tiger, all 3 are not similar, right? So these are the 3 species. Now what is the characteristic feature of a species? It is that all the members of one particular species are capable to interbreed amongst themselves, right? They are capable to interbreed amongst themselves and produce an offspring, right? Then the second characteristic feature found in all the species is that they have almost 100% characteristics which are similar, right? So the maximum similar characteristics are found in organisms that belong to one particular species, right? So two things we know about the species. The first is that they are capable to interbreed amongst themselves and produce offsprings, and the second is that almost 100% characteristics are similar, right? Now if we look at the first component of the scientific name, right? The first component is Panthera in all the 3 cases, right? Now if these 3 species, they have the same genus, that means there must be few characteristics which are similar in all the 3 organisms or in all the 3 species, right? What are the 3 species that we're talking about? We've taken the example of lion, we've taken the example of leopard and tiger. So that means lion, leopard and tiger, they have few characteristics which are similar, right? All 3 of them will possess the same characteristics, and that is why they are grouped under the same genus, that is Panthera. So the next category is the genus. So how do we define a genus? A group of related species, right? These are species, they are related to each other. How are they related to each other? Because they possess some similar characteristics, right? So a group of related species they are grouped under one genus. And now in this case, the example that we've taken is Panthera. Panthera is the genus. So we've done 2 things. In the taxonomical hierarchy, the first is the species and the second is the genus, right? So species have 100% characteristics similar, and they are capable to interbreed, whereas in genus we see they have the related species, they have few characteristics which are similar. Okay, now I just write another example, another scientific name I am writing. Felis domestica. Right. So Felis domestica is the scientific name of cat. Right? Felis domestica is the scientific name of cat. Right? The house cat we are talking about. So that is Felis domestica. Now, if you look at the house cat and you see the shape of the cat, the shape of the cat resembles quite a lot the genus Panthera. Look at the shape of the lion, tiger, leopard, and the shape of the cat, they're quite similar. Although the cats are very, very short in height. Right? Then if you will look at the toes of the cat as well as the Panthera, the genus Panthera, you will find that the toes are also similar. And the studies tells us that 95% of their DNA is similar. Right? That means there is a similarity between Felis domestica and the genus Panthera. Now, when there are similar characteristics between these two genus, Felis is the genus, first name is always the genus, and Panthera is the genus, right? So, when the characteristics of maybe two or more genuses are the same, the members belonging to that particular genus, right, are related to each other, right? So, all the related genuses are grouped under one family, right? So, what are the two genus that we've talked about? We've talked about Felis as one genus, and we've talked about Panthera as one genus, and so all the related genus, they are grouped under one particular group, and that is the family, right? So family is the group. So that means cat and lion and tiger and leopard, they all belong to the same family, and the family that they belong to is Felidae. Felidae is the family, right? So we've done the genus, the species, we've done the genus, and we've done the family, right? So family is Felidae, and the two genus that belong to the same family, we've taken the example of Panthera and Felis, right? Now what do we get to see? The next level is, so a group of related genera is family, right? So under family, we discussed the example of Felidae, and we move on to the next taxonomic category. So let's see here the next taxonomic category. So we start, let's take the example of dog, right? Dog belongs to the family Canidae, right? Dog belongs to the family Canidae, right? And we have just taken the example of Felidae also, right? Felidae is also one family that we talked about, and in Felidae we said that the cat and Panthera, the genus Panthera, they belong to the family Felidae. And we've taken another example of dog which belongs to the family Canidae. Now, what characteristic features are similar that is found in dogs as well as the cat, lions, etc. We see that Canidae and Felidae both are flesh-eating organisms. What are these flesh-eating organisms called? They are called carnivores, right? Flesh-eating organisms are called carnivores. And yes, you know what? we say basically cats, they're fond of milk. So I was reading, I was going through, I came to know that it is just a myth. Cats are also carnivores, right? So they are flesh-eating organisms. Dogs are flesh-eating organisms, the cats, and of course the Panthera genus is also flesh-eating. So since both of them, they have this common characteristic that they are flesh-eating, they are grouped under one particular order, right? So the next taxonomic category is order. So all the related families, they are grouped under a particular group called order. So the next taxonomic category is the order, right? So what is the order that Canidae and Felidae belong to? They belong to the order, they are carnivorous, so they belong to the order Carnivora, right? So that is the order to which they belong to, flesh-eating organisms. Next, let us take another example of primates, right? This is again another order, right? Primates. What are these primates? Carnivora, we know, flesh-eating organisms. Primates are those organisms which have excessive hair growth on their body, right? So chimpanzees, monkeys, and even human beings, right? We belong to the order primates, right? Now, let's see what common characteristics do these two orders have. Animals belonging to these two orders have, right? Whether they are the carnivores or the primates, we see that the females of the organisms belonging to these two orders, they possess mammary glands, right? And what are these mammary glands? They are the organs that help in feeding the young ones, right? To feed on milk. So that is the mammary gland, and as small babies, we have fed on our mother's milk through the mammary glands, right? So all the carnivores, the primates, the females of all the carnivores and the primates, they possess mammary glands which is used for feeding the young ones, right? So now these two orders, related orders, they belong to another taxonomic category which is known as class, right? So these possess the common characteristic is the presence of mammary gland, and so now the related orders, they are grouped under class. They come to the category class. So the class to which carnivora and primates belong is Mammalia, right? So all the mammals come under this Mammalia, right? Or possessing the why is the name Mammalia given? Because they possess mammary glands, right? The females of these organisms, they possess mammary glands. Now let us take the example of a few classes, right? So I'll just write the names of a few classes here. One is of course Mammalia that we've studied. Let's take the example Mammalia, Amphibia, Reptilia, right? Mammalia, all the mammals, right? Amphibia, frogs, animals that live on land as well as in water. Reptilia, all the crawling animals, especially found on land, right? Now, what common characteristics do all three of them possess? All the three classes, they possess a notochord. I'm sure you studied what is a notochord in class 9, right? They possess a notochord. What is a notochord? It is a rod-like structure that is present in the organisms that belong to these classes. Now this notochord may be present during the developmental stage of an organism, or we can say in the embryonic stage of a living organism. and it may disappear later on in life also, right? It can be replaced by something else. Like for example, if we talk about the human beings in our embryonic stage. What is the embryonic stage? When we are still being developed in the uterus of the mother, right? So that is the embryonic stage. In the first few stages, we also possess a notochord which later on gets replaced by the vertebral column, right? So that is and the other organisms also, there are some organisms which may possess it throughout their lifetime, right? And again here, in many of the organisms, it disappears and it is replaced by others. Like in human beings, it is replaced by the vertebral column. Many more, right? Many more organisms. In many more organisms, the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column, right? So all those organisms which possess we can say notochord, they are grouped under one particular phylum, right? So that means, what is phylum? A group of related classes. A group of related classes, they form a particular phylum, right? So again here, the phylum to which these three classes belong to is Chordata, right? Chordata. Chordata means, we can also say vertebrata, right? And the ones which do not possess the notochords, they are known as non-chordates. Those animals which do not possess notochord during any stage in their life, of their life cycle, they are grouped under non-chordates, right? So phylum is the next taxonomic category as we move from bottom up, right? And all these living organisms, they have some similarity. Like if we talk about the cells of all the organisms that we've talked about up till the phylum category, we find that the cells are similar, right? So this is one similarity. Whether it's a snake, whether it's a bird, human beings, or let's say lion, tiger, cat, rat, whatever. If we study the cells of these organisms, we will see that the cells of all these organisms are similar. And since they are similar, we group all the related phylum, these phylums, they are grouped under a particular category, which is the kingdom, right? So all the living organisms possessing the examples that we've studied just now, having the same, we can say, type of cells, they are grouped under the kingdom Animalia, right? I don't think I need to discuss much about Animalia and Plantae, because you know what is the difference between the cells of animals and the cells of plant. So what do we see over here is that in the category species, in the obligate category species, or in the taxon species, we saw that the similarity in the organisms belonging to one particular species is 100%. Then when from species we move to genus, we see that the number of similarity decreases. Similarly, when we move from genus ahead to the family, we see that the similarity still decreases. From family to order, the similarities are even lesser, right? From order to class, much more lesser. From class to phylum, even more less, right? So what happens? The similarity between the characteristics from species to kingdom goes on decreasing, right? 100% similarity in species, right? And we can say 100% similarities in the fundamental features of the species are found, and in kingdom the similarity decreases, right? So this is all about what we will be doing today. And of course, I told you in medicals what type of questions are asked about the obligate categories. We know that there are 7 obligate categories that we've talked about. We've talked about what is taxonomy, naming and grouping of organisms into a particular group. Then we discussed about systematics, right, which tells us about the evolutionary relationship between the living organisms. And then we discussed the 7 obligate categories, or the taxa, right? And we saw what relationship each taxon has with the other taxon, right? And of course, you need to know what is taxonomical hierarchy, right? The definitions of each obligate category, right from species to the kingdom, you need to know along with the examples, right? Another question that is asked is, what is the basis of modern taxonomy, right? Modern classification, right? What is the basis of modern classification? So what is the basis of modern classification? In this, we study the external and internal features, characteristics of a living organism. We study about the ecological interaction, and also we study about the evolutionary relationship between the living organisms. So this is the basis of modern classification. So that's about it. Still you have the assignments, children, and go through the assignments, do them, and once you finish it, there's a due date that is given, please finish it by then, and you can post it on the WhatsApp group. I will check it and I'll let you know how you've done in that. Thank you.